Tonight, the major mistake at the Supreme Court. The draft opinion for a crucial abortion case is briefly posted online. The issue in question, whether doctors in Idaho can perform abortions when the mother's health is at risk. What the document reveals about how the justices may rule in a high-stakes decision and what it could mean for women in other states.
We are not legal lawyer people. We just want to practice medicine.
The CBS Evening News starts now. The stunning news tonight from the Supreme Court admitting a document from one of the most highly anticipated cases of this term was accidentally leaked. Good evening. I'm Norah O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. Now, we don't know for certain that it is the final opinion that was uploaded and first reported by Bloomberg News. But if it is true, this signals the justices are poised to side with the Biden administration by reinstating a lower court order for now that allows hospitals in Idaho to perform abortions during a medical emergency. Why does this matter? Well, the Associated Press found that this year, Idaho had to medevac 6 women out of the state following a miscarriage, and they were not treated at an emergency room. The Supreme Court spokesperson confirmed the document was inadvertently and briefly posted online. This is the second time in recent years that an abortion opinion from the nation's highest court has been revealed ahead of the decision. It's an extraordinary breach of protocol. CBS's Jan Crawford covers the court for us and has new reporting.
The draft opinion in one of the most closely watched cases of the term was briefly and inadvertently posted on the court's website, and Bloomberg News grabbed a copy. If it stands as the final decision in the case, it would mean emergency abortions in Idaho could resume, at least for the time being, if a woman's health is at serious risk. Doctors in the state have put those abortions on hold, fearing prosecution, because Idaho's restrictive law allows the procedure only when the woman's life is in danger or in cases of rape or incest.
We are not legal lawyer people. We just want to practice medicine, standard of care that takes years, decades even to develop.
Idaho, one of 6 states that ban abortion except to save a woman's life, enacted its law 2 years ago after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. The Biden administration sued, arguing those restrictive bans are at odds with a federal law that requires hospitals to provide stabilizing care in emergencies, care that could include abortions when the woman faced serious health complications. Idaho said its law allows doctors to perform abortions in those rare cases when a woman is facing irreversible health conditions. But a lower court agreed with the administration and said the federal law on emergency care overrode Idaho's ban. The administration had urged the court not to take up the case, and in the opinion posted today, 5 of the justices agreed to dismiss the case, saying it was too soon for the court to decide. 3 conservatives dissented, saying the court should rule for Idaho. And the newest justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, also said the court should move now, but to rule against Idaho.
And Jan Crawford joins us now. Jan, this could be so interesting. You could ask at this debate tomorrow night, would a Trump administration have sued Idaho to protect a woman's health? Do we know, though, when this decision could become public, but for real, by the Supreme Court?
No, I mean, we don't know. We've got more decisions coming tomorrow morning, then again on Friday, possibly into next week. And of course, this is just one of those major cases that we're still waiting on as they wrap up the term. There are those 2 big cases involving former President Trump, whether or not he is immune from prosecution for his actions around January 6th. And if he's not immune, what can he be charged with? We won't know which opinions are coming down until they actually announce them from the bench. And like I said, that could be in time between now and sometime next week.
And we will break in tomorrow morning, Friday morning, with that news when it comes. Thank you, Jan Crawford. As we mentioned, it is the eve of the first presidential rematch debate between President Biden and Donald Trump. And CBS's Nancy Cordes is in Atlanta, where the 2 rivals will come face to face on the debate stage for the first time since October of 2020.
The debate is still a day away, but the stage here is already set and the battle lines drawn. The Democratic Party erecting billboards across Atlanta highlighting Donald Trump's recent conviction in New York.
The #1 mugshot of all time.
Trump sought to turn the conviction into a positive today when he called into a campaign event at an Atlanta black-owned barbershop.
Since it happened, the support among the black community and the Hispanic community has skyrocketed. It's been amazing.
According to a new CBS poll, most Democratic voters want Biden to strike a forceful tone tomorrow night, while most Republican voters want Trump to be polite.
He's going to be so pumped up.
In the run-up to this debate, Trump has returned to a familiar playbook, suggesting Biden plans to use drugs.
They always use conspiracies, every time.
Former Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger is a longtime Trump critic who formally endorsed Biden today. He remembers when Trump made the same baseless claims about Biden in 2020.
People say he was on performance-enhancing drugs.
And even about Hillary Clinton in 2016.
We should take a drug test.
Why do you think he does that?
They're setting expectations that if Joe Biden does well and better than Donald Trump, it must be some outside influence like drugs. It's asinine. It's insane.
Biden huddled with advisors at Camp David today for the 6th straight day, while Trump insisted in a phone interview with Newsmax that he doesn't need much prep.
I'm not sure you can lock yourself into a room for 2 weeks or 1 week or 2 days and really learn what you have to know.
Biden aides are skeptical of that claim. They think that Trump, who has been largely out of sight for the past 4 days, is spending more time on prep than he's letting on. Interestingly, Nora, a full 25% of voters in our poll said they're going to be tuning into the debate first and foremost to see if these two men have the mental and cognitive capacity to serve over the next 4 years.
All right, Nancy Cortez, thank you. And we will have complete coverage of the first presidential debate hosted by CNN tomorrow night. It's going to be starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on our streaming network, CBS News 24/7. And then the live simulcast of the debate will be right here on CBS at 9 p.m. Eastern, followed by our expert analysis. So we hope you join us here at CBS. Tonight, millions of Americans across the Midwest remain under threat of severe flooding, with several major rivers still rising, and they may not crest until later this week. CBS's Tom Hansen spoke with homeowners in Minnesota who have lost everything.
For days, this house sat perilously on the river's edge close to Minnesota's Rapidan Dam, and then, in a heartbeat, it was gone. Jenny Barnes' childhood home and half a century of memories.
This is our life, and it's such a beautiful place. It's just a loss of history, and it's sad.
The Blue Earth River continues to surge, and the ground is still giving way. The threat remains very real to several communities downstream. The recent rains in the Midwest, 600% above normal. Homes and crops, a way of life, destroyed by record flooding. It's taken a toll on aging infrastructure as well, not just this dam, which is more than a century old, but also roads and bridges washed away. This was Minnesota's governor after surveying a damaged highway.
The engineers built that for a 500-year flood. That was 14 years ago. So the 500-year flood came in 14 years.
The Midwest is experiencing more days of extreme rainfall, events expected to be wetter and more intense due to climate change. Just as sobering, only 4% of U.S. homeowners currently have flood insurance. In the Midwest, it's less than 2%. Catastrophic damage compounded by an insurance nightmare. Back at Rapidan Dam, the Barnes family home is gone, their business barely standing.
And you can see just how close Jenny's family business is to the edge. We've been watching as the riverbank has crept closer and closer to the store. And Nora, authorities are pushing the media back out of an abundance of caution, just in case this side of the riverbank also gives way.
All right, Tom Hansen, be careful. Thank you. President Biden today said he is righting what he called a historic wrong by offering pardons to thousands of U.S. veterans who were convicted of crimes under a former military law that banned same-sex relationships from 1951 to 2013. This follows a year-long CBS News investigation that showed LGBTQ veterans who still had less than honorable discharges and, in some cases, criminal convictions on their record more than a decade after Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. CBS's Jim Axelrod has been on the story from the start.
As my sexual identity blossomed, I battled with how to live the covert double life that was required of LGBTQ military members at that time.
Steve Morose was an Air Force officer in the late 1980s. before the military found out he was gay and put him on trial.
You were looking at 17 years in prison.
I was 5 years per sodomy charge and a year per conduct unbecoming charge.
He was sentenced to 2 years at a military prison.
And I thought my military life was over, but in that moment, I thought my life was over.
Last year when we spoke, he was still hoping for the day when the government would make things right.
They have the ability to look back and say, people who are hanging under the weight of something that is no longer valid should be made whole.
And today, word of that long-awaited redemption arrived. President Biden announced former service members who were convicted of crimes solely for being gay could apply for pardons. For veterans like Morose, a pardon represents the only possible path to justice.
I was a great officer, and that all got taken away from me. I didn't deserve that.
And a recognition of harm that's decades past due.
Suddenly it brought this all to the forefront again, and that love and support is a tsunami again this morning, and it's amazing.
The pardons are not automatic. Veterans will have to apply to prove they're eligible. After that, they can go to their military branch and apply to have their discharge changed, which the White House says should unlock access to critical VA benefits down the road. Nora.
This is a big change. Thanks for your investigation, Jim Axelrod. And a closed-door trial got underway in Russia today for a Wall Street Journal reporter the U.S. government says is being wrongfully detained. 32-year-old Evan Gershkovich appeared in court with a shaved head. He's been detained in Russia for 15 months, accused of spying for the CIA, though we should note the Russian government has shown no evidence of this. Eye on America is next with a doctor who says asking patients about their health includes gun safety. We've been reporting this week on the U.S. Surgeon General declaring gun violence a public health crisis. Firearm deaths among children have gone up nearly 90% in the last decade, and the American Academy of Pediatrics urges doctors to discuss firearm safety with their patients, because for many it's remained a taboo topic. Well, in tonight's Eye on America, CBS's Nikki Batiste reports on doctors working to change the conversation around safe gun storage.
This gun range may feel a world away from a doctor's office, but these are medical professionals training to save lives by learning about guns.
I felt like I had a real deficit in talking about firearms with patients.
We sat in on the class Dr. James Bigham teaches at Max Creek Gun Range in Wisconsin.
First thing I want to start off with is the bullet.
With shop and gun owner Steve DeRazio.
That's part of being the responsible gun owner, is knowing right from wrong.
A primary care doctor and professor at the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine, Dr. Bigham asks his patients about how they store their weapons in routine visits.
People may feel it's too personal, but as a physician, I absolutely think I have the space to say we got to be doing everything we can to protect our children, our communities.
In 2018, the NRA tweeted regarding this topic that doctors should stay in their lane. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I think this is our lane. As a primary care doctor, if I'm willing to counsel you on alcohol consumption, tobacco use, how you're driving your car, I got to be talking about firearms as well.
Is this a Second Amendment issue?
I don't think so. I mean, we have the right to bear arms. I sell guns. That's the last thing I want to do is take away my guns. It's not about taking away. It's about safety, and that's it.
Nearly 500 people a year die from accidental shootings. Gun suicides are at an all-time high for adults, and suicide rates for children have risen dramatically. Access to unlocked firearms in homes makes suicide nearly 4 times more likely. There are about 30 million children across the country living in homes with guns.
Studies show a child as young as 3 has the strength to pull this trigger.
Pediatricians at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia say asking parents about safe gun storage is as important as asking about bike helmets and pool safety.
Are there any guns at home?
Dad is in the Army, so there is one, but we actually got a lock here for it.
To share your experiences.
Dr. Dorothy Novick is also teaching these soon-to-be doctors how to broach the triggering topic.
All of the injury prevention, safety counseling that we offer, we now wrap firearms right into that conversation to really make it normal.
The hospital provides these gun locks to families, one step in making homes safer.
This is really a conversation about safety. This is not a question about politics or ideology. And in fact, people from all across the ideological spectrum all agree that firearm safety is really a fundamental tenet of responsible firearm ownership.
Critical care, starting with a life-saving conversation. For Eye on America, Nikki Batiste, Philadelphia.
Such an important story. The coach of the U.S. women's soccer team leaves a big name off the Paris Olympics roster. That's next. A major shakeup at the U.S. women's soccer team with star forward Alex Morgan off the roster for the Paris Olympics. Coach Emma Hayes says the move was the result of an extremely competitive process. Morgan, now 34, recently recovered from an ankle injury. The two-time World Cup champion says she's disappointed, but she will be cheering on the team, Team USA, next month. Heart of America is next. Finally, tonight's Heart of America, meet the grandmother who talks the talk and walks the walk in the name of love. Gina Moore just arrived at Seattle Children's Hospital after walking 334 miles from Spokane. That's where Moore's now 17-year-old granddaughter, Jada, received a life-saving bone marrow transplant after being diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. Gina founded the Jada Bascom Foundation and has walked from Los Angeles to New York and even across Europe, all to meet and enroll potential bone marrow donors. We caught up with Moore while she was on her journey.
I want to contribute to saving the lives of others. That is, giving them a second chance at life, like Jada had.
Well, you are doing it. Gina Moore, she's tonight's Heart of America. I don't know about you, but that gave me the goosebumps. That's tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night.